Today's Fireside Chat is episode number 70, which is going to be held by Cecilia and Remco. Cecilia is one of our directors, Remco is our founder and CEO, and the topic today is the fake followers on social media, with a particular interest in Twitter.
And we're live. Hello.
Hello, and welcome back to our Fireside Chat. Today, me and Remco would like to talk about, fake followers on social media. I think is really the topic. So the reason why we are bringing this topic up is because I think you probably all know him. Rand Fishkin created a blog article on his company's blog. Company's called SparkToro. They do audience research. And anyway, he posted a blog article in May on a study they did together with another tool on basically they were trying to figure out how many accounts on Twitter are really fake or spam accounts, right? Which is really interesting if you look at the numbers, because they're very different from what Twitter themselves publish in terms of what they believe is not real accounts or not active accounts. And I think that brings up a few questions. So one thing that I found really interesting is how you actually define what's fake and spam and fraud, and what are we even talking about? So I think we should maybe get into that a little bit. And then the other question that I think would be interesting to discuss is, what does that actually mean or imply for brands spending advertising money on platforms such as Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, right?
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe to give you all a bit of background. So basically, to sum it up very, very briefly, the article positions that with the method and the sample they've chosen, round about 19.5% of the Twitter accounts, of active Twitter accounts, so accounts that have actually created a tweet within the last 9 weeks, they believe to be fake or spam accounts.
It's nearly 20%.
Nearly 20. So let's just say, for ease of discussion, let's say around 20% of active accounts are either fake or spam. Wow. Now, fake accounts, in their definition, can also be created on purpose. Like you have these kinds of bots where you get updates on products or prices, or some sort of bot that crawls for news, right? That might actually be useful. But I think in their definition, they have not included these bots, right? So I think it's more, let's just say, wasteful accounts. Let's put it like that. And then on the other hand, you have spam accounts that are obviously created to spam you, to manipulate you, to make money out of you in some nefarious way somehow, right? Or to influence your opinion, these kind of things. But I think the details are not really that important, because I think, and I'd be interested in your opinion as well, I think we all feel that probably all the social media platforms, and it doesn't really matter if it's Twitter or if it's Facebook or Instagram or maybe even Discord. I'm not so sure about Discord because it's relatively new, but certainly TikTok as well, have incredible amounts of accounts and activity that are not really coming from a person sharing something that's important to them, right?
Yeah.
And I think the more pertinent question really is, what does that mean if you are a brand and you spend money on advertisements on these platforms, or if you actually spend money on influencers? Because that's also something that's happening. There's actually several articles on how there are also fake influencers that basically, like we used to see with backlink link networks that actually create accounts, and then they have so-called engagement pods where they create engagement and followers for themselves, so that they can then sell themselves to you as an influencer, while in reality, they're not really influencing anybody. So how do we deal with that? If I'm a brand and I want to spend money, what's our advice?
Wow, yeah, that's it's tough, because I think the last 20 years, like every social media network has taken their own approach to how they would like to deal with the number of user accounts that someone can create.
Right. Very nicely put.
Well, no, to a certain extent, it's fine, right? Like if you're on Instagram, it's absolutely fine to have 3 or 4 different accounts. Like you might have your personal one that you use for friends and family to keep them up to date. Yeah. There might be one for your, I don't know, meditation and life coaching business that you're trying to. It could be. You could have to, and the third one maybe for your, I don't know, your actual just high quality photography work that you're doing. And there are just for the fun of it, and that's absolutely fine. I think to a certain extent they just keep you engaged. Some of these accounts are just very inactive. I think we should definitely or Instagram and co. Could definitely start some sort of policy to start like removing certain accounts if they haven't been used in a very long time, because it's a little bit of a mess. But on the other hand, you also see within the same company, also within Meta, Facebook has taken a very strong stance on one user is one account with their own name. At some point in the past, in some countries you had to upload like a picture of your passport to show that to prove that it was you, and you could only use your real actual official name as well on the platform. I think they've let that go a little bit in the last couple of years again, but from day one they've said this is a social network, so there has to be like a real element of just people.
Yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly, I'm still using like a 15-year-old personal email address on Facebook.
So am I. Yeah.
For all business purposes as well, because I don't know if that's changed, but you could never actually create a business. I mean, you can have a business management center, but you could not create like a profile for a business and then have an email address tied to that and act as if you were a person, right? That didn't used to work. So that was actually pretty annoying, if I remember correctly.
You can also not be an admin of any type of page, even if you were an agency, unless you had your own real personal approved account to use, which was But Twitter is taking a little bit of a different. I mean, they have a different challenge, I think, because to a certain extent they do the same as as Instagram do as well. You can create as many accounts as you want. Also on the app on your phone, you can just click on your face and picture, not your face. It's like if you have a picture of your face as your avatar, and it opens up straight away. You can switch between accounts, the same as Instagram has as well. But they have a far stronger, since the content that has to be produced on the platform was to a large extent not that visual. It was mostly text,
right?
Just short form text and links and all of that. It was the perfect place for bots and fake accounts to just start publishing spamming people and using their own messages. That's a little more difficult on Instagram, Facebook, and others, I guess.
It is. It's probably different mechanisms. And I think part of what I find really is interesting is oftentimes I don't actually even understand the business idea behind what's going on, right? So for example, I bought an iPhone recently, and now I'm getting all these iPhone case ads on Instagram.
Yeah, you need one. It's glass front and back.
Yeah, so I have one, but I got it on Amazon. Sorry, guys, stop these ads, please. Thank you. But anyway, I keep getting these. It's actually it's so funny because it's kind of a fake ad, and then it has from other people. It has basically fake comments. So what they're doing is basically, I think they buy stuff cheaply in China, and then they create a really nice exclusive looking website, and then they pretend it's a very exclusive product, and then they sell it to people like me who obviously have the money to buy an iPhone. And then what's funny is you see the same kind of ad from different brands. So there's apparently a few people doing the same kind of hoax there. But then one of them actually had like 600 comments. I was like, okay, this is just an iPhone case. I got to check out I need to understand what's going on. And then I think something like 550 of these 600 comments are obviously from fake profiles, probably automatically created, that tell you that you can get this cheaper on another website. And it's always the same website. That's why I can easily say this is all fake, because they all tell you, oh yeah, this is really great, but I got it much cheaper there. And then I was like, more than 500 out of 600 comments, and even the ad that I'm seeing is basically bullshit. So how much of what's going on here is actually real, and how much of what's going on here can I actually still believe? And also for me as a user that might click on ads, how much do I want my buying behavior how much do I want to be influenced if I see that this is how it works, right?
Yeah.
If I see an ad from a brand that might be legitimate, and then I see these kinds of ads and also these kinds of comments to these ads, what does that do to my idea of brands that advertise on Instagram, for example, right?
It is, one of the questions that I do ask myself, like, if it works that way, and if at the end of the day, the product is the only thing that counts, if you were to buy it anyways because you like this product, or then it can be a legitimate marketing strategy in the most horrible sense possible, right? But of course it has to be disclaimed. There has to be a disclaimer saying that this is obviously an ad, but it's not new. I think also like 100 years ago we would go around and hand out vouchers for people to promote other people's products, just to go out there and tell them that this is like the best thing to buy, and they would get something back for it in return. Of course, this being automized using bots takes it to a whole new level, but we were always marketed to.
That's very true. I think just the extent and the scale is very different now, right? And also the fact that it's so easy to click buy and so hard to understand what you're actually buying there, right? Versus you have to go into a store, you have to try it on, you have to put your cash onto the counter. It's very old school, obviously. But I think it's just gotten much easier. And what I'm really kind of disturbed by personally is, so I have these types of ads where I can hopefully tell that this is really not necessarily a scam, but close to a scam. And then there's these really cool individual small brands where I'm like, okay, this is really cool, I want to support them. But it gets harder and harder to distinguish between the two types of offers, right? And then of course you have the really big old brands, established brands, where okay, this is Coca-Cola.
What do you look for then when you see these smaller brands or these single product brands potentially that are just trying to or good Amazon brands that are just trying to make a living, and they're actually selling tens of thousands of products?
It's a fair point. Yeah, I think personally my issue as a user is more, do I feel like I get the value for the money that I believe I should get, right? So in some sense you're probably right. If somebody makes me buy something for 4 times the price that it should be, but I still feel happy about it, that's fine. It's just, again, turning it around. Do I want to be an advertiser going in this sea of apparently dubious advertisements? And is this a platform that I want to spend money on? Is this a platform that I want to be associated with? Is Facebook in that regard better because there's less fake stuff, or is it worse, right?
Yeah.
So I think these are valid questions, particularly because in my experience, lots of the brands, depending on how sexy and fast turning your product is, but a lot of the brands have this issue of, we feel like we need to be on social media because people can contact us and we need to be there. But we don't actually see, if you look at last click or, if you look at Google Analytics, no matter the attribution model, we don't really see the revenue. But somehow we feel we have to be there and we have to advertise.
But that's a very good point. I mean, if you are on there, and if you see, there are some very good brands out there that use social media.
Yes, definitely, and they use it well.
A very strong community. Yeah. They're very active in their community management. They get rid of whatever dodgy comments that might have come up by what is it called, by bots very quickly. That makes a very big difference.
Yes.
But it's not something that you just start and then can just leave or let run, I guess, or just not care about it at all. Even on our fantastically huge social media presence with the GANDT group, where we share lots of insights. By the way, if you're not following us, you should. There we also see, since we're gaining a little bit of traction now with the videos and the content that we're creating, and doing more interviews with external people, or using common hashtags like marketing,
Yes.
or the standard ones that bots love. We get lots of comments underneath all of our posts as well that are just fully automized. If we wouldn't get rid of them, then our account would look fake, right? I mean,
You're turning around now.
I mean, that's the thing. If you don't actively manage that community or go after that or also take care of that, it's just it's annoying to say the least, but it's nothing new. So I think from a brand perspective, as long as you are taking an active stance in community management and making sure that you keep everything clean from your point, you can definitely make it work.
I think, yeah, totally. I mean, it's also, I mean, there's so many question marks around how these platforms actually, like how much these kinds of activity or reactions to whatever you're doing actually count into the algorithm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if maybe out of 100 comments, 30 are from not people, let's put it like that. And if you deduct them, your engagement rate obviously is lower. Does the system recognize that some of this is true or real and some of it isn't? Or does it just mean you have a worse engagement rate and your reach goes down, right? So there's so much that personally I don't understand about the impact of this bot economy, let's call it that maybe. That is really very hard to have an educated opinion, right?
Yeah. Do you know any bots that or just companies that have deployed a bot themselves very successfully that looks natural, where you think, okay, that adds value?
You mean more like a chatbot, basically, a smart bot that adds value?
Since we're on social media, one of the things I've noticed, especially there's some airlines that are, you complain about them on Twitter.
Oh, that's really cool.
And you say like, oh, you lost my luggage again, and like within
including my
15
iPhone
seconds.
and iPad, and I want it back, or remuneration.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I want to be compensated for having my flight being delayed for 3 hours, and they are out there within a couple of seconds, minutes, or whatever. I think it looks quite natural. They don't do it straight away within 5 seconds, but there's a short time delay. They do reach out and just say like, hey, by the way, we're here. I've heard you. I know that's really annoying. I've just sent you a DM. Let's talk about this straight away. We can get it sorted. What do you think about those kind of practices?
Well, I mean, if it's useful, obviously, right? And I guess that's your point, right? That there is useful cases as well. And I totally agree with that. I mean, again, this is a very embarrassing example, but I only got a PlayStation 5 because I was following a Twitter bot that told me where I can get one, like within minutes of this product going live on the website, right? I would have never been able to buy that product without that Twitter bot.
But it was hard.
Go for it.
Fair point. It was very hard to get.
Exactly.
For a very long
so there
time.
was an added value to me as a user, right?
Yeah.
And I think the challenge for these platforms, that might just be my own bubble, but what I hear and read and feel is that more and more people are kind of getting, at least if they understand these things going on the platforms, is they're kind of getting skeptical about the platforms in general, right?
Yeah.
The sentiment on Facebook, I would position, is pretty negative at the moment. Like they're just trying to steal your data, trying to manipulate you, trying to make money out of you in worst possible ways, which is, it's a shame because there's so much cool stuff that you can do on these platforms. And
do you think it's too negative?
I don't know if it's too negative. I think it's probably fitting to what's going on. But that brings me back to, if you are a platform like that, what's your agenda for the next 10 years? This topic is just going to get bigger, right? Computers are getting faster, data centers are getting faster. It's super easy to build millions and billions of things automatically. So we need to find, both as platform owners and as societies, we need to find ways to kind of distinguish between the bot that helps you get your stuff back or that helps me find a product that I'm actually looking for versus all the crap, honestly, that's out there, right?
One of the things that does cross my mind from time to time is whether or not politics should get involved, because this is, at some point, these are societal communities and movements that just reach so many people. It's with, I don't know, 3 billion people on the planet being on some social network, or at least accounts being out there. I'm not going to say that these are actual people, but
brings us back to
brings us back to saying, I don't want to go back to the same topic that we started with, but that's to a certain extent, I don't know. There are lots of conversations about how a company like Meta can regain trust, for example, with its own users again, and maybe if they should be also forced to impose some sort of rules for the platform itself that really shows that these are real people. For example, that you cannot create fake accounts anymore.
I mean, there's always been these discussions, I guess, on whether you need to verify yourself, like really verify, like show an ID or some sort of bank statement or whatever, right? And obviously that would be a very, very... It's not an easy way in terms of it probably need crazy resources, but technically it's probably an easier way to do that. I think part of the reasons why that has not happened is that the value of these platforms is strongly tied to the user growth. And obviously, if you do that, you probably cut out a certain share of your existing users, right?
Well, it has changed. I think that everyone has been communicating more on just user engagement, or just the time on the app is become far more important. That's also why everyone is switching to video instead of away from just static imagery or text, just to keep people on the platform longer.
I mean, to get back to your question of how to improve the situation, should it be political efforts, or I think my assumption is that these companies are all driven in the end by the opinions of their shareholders, right? Yeah. So if there was a move towards, we don't care about your monthly average users, we care about people watching videos, or the amount of minutes of people watching videos on your platform, that of course would probably help, because then automatically it doesn't really matter how many inactive users you have, right? But so I think that's kind of a way to push these companies a little more in a better direction, definitely. On the other hand, it will also push them into catching your attention even more, right? Yeah. So I'm not sure. So I think probably my personal opinion would be that there needs to be some legal, governmental, legislative regulation. Okay. But from what I've seen so far, it's never been the greatest idea if the legislators actually were the ones to create the rules, because they don't actually understand the topic well enough to do that well, right? I mean, look at all the DSGVO, etc. The ghetto that we've been having for the last years now. So I think what probably would be the best way to improve the situation is to have legislation that forces the companies to come up with strategies and measures to improve the situation.
Or, I think it's the toughest way to go. Or we have to create so much awareness for this being an issue or a problem that we'll see alternatives arise.
Yeah.
Because at some point there's going to be a void in the market, I guess, for just a strong local social player that can actually create this community or make sure that you feel safe and you're within this space. But not many of I don't know. There are not many right now out there that I know of that are actively used by friends and family or other colleagues, apart from just the obvious Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat. Maybe Pinterest.
You're using Snapchat?
I did for a while to try it out, but I'm not cool enough, I think. Yeah. I don't have enough, to give out my Snap ID, or I don't know, I forgot what that was called. Yeah, no, I don't send a lot of snaps. No.
I think Anwar was just laughing there.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, maybe to close this loop a little,
Yeah.
your recommendation. I'm a company. I have a product and I want to sell to people. And I'm a bit scared of social media because it's probably a lot of effort if you want to do it right. And I don't know which platform I should use. And what's your recommendation on how to approach this topic and how to, deal with if somebody tells you you've got 3 bots that are, or three other pages that are cloning yours, and how do you deal with these issues? Do you have a guideline? Do you have a checklist? How do you make sure your brand is safe out there?
Well, that's a very big topic. I think we need a second. I think we need a second fireside chat for that. I think the most important thing is just to be aware of the fact that this is common practice and this is how social media works today. Raising awareness, education, and showing everyone what some of the risks are, but also what some of the opportunities are in using bots strategically, for example, or managing your community really, really well and tightly, so that you're close to the people that are there, and also value the opinions of those that are real users and that go after, that can be a voice within your own and their own communities. That is very, very important. And not to forget, the whole point of a social media platform is to be social. This is not a push marketing, type of community. A community doesn't start if you just put pretty pictures out there and you don't interact or talk to people, or take the time to get to know them, listen, and just do things with them, and just start to create this activity around the group and your brand. Otherwise, you simply shouldn't do it. The only social media platform where I think it could be beneficial to just post nice pictures of your products is probably Pinterest.
Right.
At this point in time,
it's more of a
visual
shopping window kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more of a shopping window kind of thing, and that works really well. And I think also, especially to gain inspiration, that's how the platform is used. But there's less interaction between the users there within that community. If we're talking Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, for that matter, then you should definitely think about how you're going to manage the community actively yourself and become a part of it.
Yes.
Put yourself out there. Something we should do more. But it's interesting.
Yeah, it's good advice.
Cool.
All right.
Then we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening to just us talk about everything that's going on in the world of social media. And we forgot to name drop Elon Musk. I think we should.
Oh yes, that. I think what was it? Roughly 70% of his followers are probably very likely not real people. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. But obviously, the more famous you are, the more bots you have following you. So it's probably It's probably not his fault. But still, 70%, crazy, right?
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
That's really crazy.
It's crazy. Oh well. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Speak soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.